All right, so morning brief. Jordan Skull coming at you. Taking on the Alpha with my Airbender avatar today. Yeah, I'm always a game to. I just love the chessboard against OSHA, against the main part. I think it really encourages some really cool, strong standards. Of course, obviously, the Fire Lord Nation, go figure, they're going to be floating around in here. So how do you play? Is it all firebender technique? Is that how you got to go against this in the world? If that was the only way I come up with you and told you to do, you wouldn't think of nothing else. There's just the parts that I gave you are the only stuff in the internet, or yeah, on the internet, right? Uh, so a lot of that kind of comes that, and I've been working one with chemistry. It's take your chemist and get them to get understanding physics with quantum mechanics. The subatomic periodic table. Lots of zeros and ones on that for your weights and periodic number. But they work basically the same way. Once I have that composition as silver, this build-in is the acid test, and I want to turn that into a recrystallization process. Or you have to take that same silver nitrate, and you have to figure out how to by electrolysis get a plate, get a plating of it to come off. And then what are you going to do with that powder anyways? Because it's the same problem as having the beakers, the temperature, getting them to do that without just starting with the original element that you wanted. Remember, copper come from some dude probably at night camping on a rock, right? And that rock just happened to be green that you don't know the difference of, and then wake up in the morning and see other green spots around it in a pool of liquid copper, and well, you hit it with a rock a couple of times. And I mean, the way in which you come out some of that information, at least some of that stuff, it's crazy. Having mistakes is cellophane and marshmallows. In chemistry, cellophane huge. Looking for something totally different, comes out with this. Engineering, economics, Schrodinger, cat in the box. And that's a death note, honestly. It's a radioactive isotope. It's always in the box. And you can always tell that the cat's in there because there's always something, plant, animal or mineral, that has some kind of effect in the same way that does. Is the cat alive or dead? Well, does it have food? Well, that's a time window. And that's something in an XYZ that correlates against that standard. So in the stone mill, it works a lot of the same way. Is Common Core, it works that way. What a boss do? It's like, well, they're this old with this many skills. These are kind of the details of the master mason, and some of them might have criteria where it applies them into managers, which is what, a bunch of small boxes of subcategories of skills and where they come up on the location. Now, location is map navigation, day-night navigation. It's history. It's not geodesics. It's geography. And geography is a box and a ball and a flat Earth and a round Earth kind of bull crap. That goes along with all that. So, when you're going against this alpha, beta radiation is a better explanation of what you do. Sometimes people just have that. Some people are just in the triple point, and you have to deal with that as if the people standard of what this is. And I said, we have votes for this. We have other ways to do this. Do the facts correlate again? All right. So before I just let somebody out of the noose, you're always in the box. Somebody comes at you with these kinds of things in a town meeting with better physics, whether it be the air turbulence equation, thermodynamics problem, geography and geodesic problem. If you want to get into Airbender with me, plasmic state of lightning against any of these things. You need each of those in general in chemistry. I need temperature of a consistency of a yellow oxygen flame. And that's the irrational number. Blue flame too hot, gets out of control, can't get the reaction. Reaction's 5% where the red flame is, and that's thermodynamics too. And that's, perfect energy and perfect machine. And then you do get to some parts where, all right, so let's change out all the parts on the tread line. Just change out all the parts. Is it the same tread line? Well, if the building stays and it leads to the same output, there's no reason why you couldn't say that they're those things. But if I give somebody all the same skills that I have, and does that make them a new person? Does that make them in the same regards? Does that take that away from me? You got Ang here tapping somebody. You gotta let it go. And I'm gonna be honest, that's what it felt like for me. I don't know what the hell was going on exactly, but yeah, you get poked in the back too many times. You shelled up like that, and you just from gravity, right? So that's what that is. I don't really have any kind of people or player in there. I don't really like to keep G's in my compass and square. You know what I mean? I like to put events in there, and sometimes people are that event. Can't get around that physics, believe me, I try. Uh, so, and space and time bending and things like that. It's like, well, to be honest, quantify it. You're just trying to do it in front of a psychologist. Well, what is reality warping? What is time bending? It's like, and you can manipulate the physical pieces of a psychologist's office because the individual bank of terms and the steric reactions against an original form of how to process sodium, then yeah, you're going to have a hell of a time. I mean, I just don't do those very often. They follow math. That's how we know that there's higher uh, elements in the periodic table by number. The number of the electron or the housing of these things, the collision of these things makes the nucleus of the protons and neutrons in here collide together for a shortened period. And it's not necessarily that they've clung together, but the area and how close they act together make them act with a certain decay state. Like in itself, that element is its own universe. I have the numbers for that when I take the radioactive isotope of that and I put it next to this other one. I have all the radioactive stuff, but not quite in that form, that triple point, that temperature or size of the beaker. And then it turns over. And that's dark energy. That's this expansion on redshift and stuff. But I can't really quantify. I mean, I believe Hubble. I think redshift is one of those things that you do have to quantify for. But when you got lensing problems, when you got gas clouds and X-ray variables, I believe in a lot of the process. Science, it is what it is. But, here it's like, well, I can find a lot of the same results down here. You know what I mean? Is this necessarily the time? Is this kind of one of those things? And so you got to go out and get the votes. One person to 1,000,000 people, you're still registering yes or no, red or blue. Quantum operatings of adjusting who that is, whether it be a student, local militia person, sergeant, anybody. And those are the kinds of fields that, we're banging around in today. I know some of us, it's especially the math for being blue lit. We got to have some kind of standard for that for you because, regardless if you need something like that or not, it's good to have, some kind of solid function. And, history class, again, my teachery to somebody else's teachery, we both need something like patent because it's hardcore. Then you get into same problem today, whatever marshmallow is on the desk between our ability to do that, and that references the same number for every student you can teach. The standard of who's on the other side of the timeline past all of that and whether those are still recognizable physics by today's standards. If there's no limits in physics, I'd love to tell you in the math class there's a bunch of them. But out here there's not. And the reality of those pieces of paper, sometimes those limits fall short on things. They're gonna pose a physics that, because of the natural state of the universe, it cannot do. It is not the same thing in the same place. That you have to have constant people, the IMA specifically, the big hub, the people checking the numbers and the business and the Census Bureau and basically NATO. But it's obviously not the military version of battle planning, drug kingpins and stuff like that. It's like, how do you get this company to integrate a local militia union without it undermining and or long game creating an air acoustic flutter for that company and the world around it, because lawsuits, Ford versus Supreme Court, that's a chemical reaction, that's a physics reaction, and a law principle of philosophy and whatever else you want to throw in there. Some stuff to take consideration this morning. Boy, I had to fight it out. Ready to do. Got our hearing test today. I had to be honest, it's hard to want to sign that. It's like, I know that that's a trap. I know it's a trap. I know that piece of paper. I've done this before. I know. Fill out this test and take this thing. It's just, can you hear me? I can hear you. Is this a problem ever on the floor? I've never checked. Good God. Catch you on the next one.